Good evening, everybody. Looks like we have all commissioners and Delia and Tina are here, as well as members of the public. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I just want to make certain on my laptop it's coming through. I have 7:31 p.m., so I'm going to call to order Woodstock's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for November 19th, 2020. And we'll do a quick roll call. I'll go through the names. If you can just let me know you're here for the record, even though I do see you. Joe Adaletta.
Here.
Mark Blackmer.
Here.
Sid Blodgett.
Here.
Gail Dickinson.
Here.
Nancy Frazier.
Here.
Jeff Gordon here. Jeff Marcotte.
Here.
David Morse.
Here.
Doug Porter.
Here.
Fred Rich.
Here.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Here.
And Tim Young.
Here.
I'll note for the record that we have a quorum. I did put on for our Pledge of Allegiance. If you notice, we did get a flag. So that way we can do the flag. So if we wanted to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So I know Jeff Marcotte, you led us the last time with the pledge. Do you want to lead us again and have the honor?
That would be very good, Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to go through quickly the meeting rules and guidelines in case there's anybody who hasn't been to one of our meetings virtually. Just to remind you that if you can keep yourself on mute, so that way we don't get lots of background feedback. And when you speak, if you can just state your name for the record, so that way it's clear on the audio recording that we have. If you need to unmute yourself, you can click it. If you're on Zoom video, you can click and unmute yourself. If you're on the phone, you can hit *9. Just remember that once you've unmuted yourself and you're done talking, just remute yourself. And again, that will cut back on the background noise and help with the recording. There is the live otter.ai notes if you wanted to click on that for a live transcript. I don't think we have the chat feature functional, do we? I don't know. But if the chat feature is functional, we're not using the chat feature because we can't have sidebar conversations during a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So I will say do not use the feature. But if you do, we may have to ask you not to be participating in the meeting. The governor has extended through executive order his prior executive orders. So all the executive orders that we've been running through up until November 9th are still in effect now. I think sometime to February, I believe. So we're still running with all the different executive orders that we have been functioning, and all the same rules otherwise that apply to our meetings are still in effect. Does anyone have any questions about the meeting rules? Designation of alternates. There is, at this point, we do not need to designate an alternate, but as has been what we do, certainly alternates can participate in our discussions that we have, other than the votes if an alternate isn't seated. My report's going to be very quick. We do need to be mindful of time as far as trying to be done as close as we can to 10 o'clock. However, we have rules anyway about how late we can conduct planning and zoning business anyway per our bylaws. My usual thank yous to all of you as commissioners and to staff for getting everything done at our meetings, in between our meetings. I appreciate it. You did get notice that went out before. This is for commissioners about the training that is strongly recommended. It is the, which training is that? That is the Connecticut Sexual Harassment Prevention Training. It is strongly recommended as commissioners. if you could do that, since that does help the town, especially with requirements that the town would like to meet with regards to boards and commissions. We can resend you that link. I did it. It wasn't very difficult at all. And then you get a little certificate. And when you get the certificate, please let Crystal in the selectman's office know. So that way we can make certain that we're keeping up on that. But if you needed the link, let me know and we can resend it to you. And we do have Thanksgiving next week. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And which I know this is going to be the highlight of our meeting tonight. I believe, is it Mark, you have a birthday today?
Rumor has it.
Yes, you're 21, right?
How did you guess?
That's right. So happy birthday, Mark.
Thank you.
And on your birthday, thank you for joining us at the meeting. Otherwise, is there any citizens' comments not on anything that is otherwise specified as an agenda item? Or anything dealing with the zoning enforcement officer report? Okay. We have meeting minutes. We have 2 meeting minutes. One is the October 15th regular meeting, and the other is the November 5th special meeting. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Move, we approve both of them. This is Dickinson.
I'll second that, Dave Morse.
Dave Morse. So a motion made by Gail Dickinson, seconded by Dave Morse to approve both as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett, Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Timothy Young.
Aye.
That so passes. We will note that. Thank you. Okay. That then takes us to our annual meeting business, because this is a non-election year for the town. As far as municipal offices, our bylaws require us to do certain annual meeting business items at our November business meeting. So that's why this is on. We have, and these do require several of them, 2 of them require votes. One is election of officers. The current officers are me as chair, David Morse as vice chair, and Jeff Marcotte as secretary. I have heard from all 3, and the rumor is they would like to continue, unless there's anybody else who wishes to nominate somebody or nominate themselves. Otherwise, we would need a motion to nominate, and then we would approve election of our officers.
A move to approve the slate of officers as presented.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Tim Young.
Tim. So approve officers. Let me just write this down on the voting record. Any discussion? I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Tim Young.
Aye.
That so passes.
If I may add to the record, Jeff, I think on behalf of the commissioners, we want to express our appreciation to the officers for accepting another year in their office as chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
And I do extend my thanks to the commission.
Thank you, Joe.
Re-electing me for another year as chair. Thank you. I enjoy working with you all, and thank you, David and Jeff. And I think I can speak for everybody that I'm sure we'll get an automatic 100% increase in our officer salaries. The next, we have approval of 2021 meeting dates. We do have to get in a listing of what we're proposing for meeting dates. We can always change these around. I did list the first Thursday of every month, and I did list the third Thursday, although in September, if I got this correctly, one of our meetings in September would conflict with the Yom Kippur holiday, and we do try to not have meetings on major religious holidays. So one proposal would then be to change the September date that we normally meet to a week after in September, so as not to conflict with that holiday if I've saw the correct calendar for the Yom Kippur holiday. Again, we can change these around during the year. We just need to, at least before the start of the year, have a proposed meeting date schedule. Does anybody have any questions about it? We do need to approve it, so I'll take a motion to approve the 2021 proposed meeting dates if someone wishes to make the motion.
I'll move, we accept the meeting dates for 2021.
Second,
So motion by David Moore, seconded by Dale Dickinson to approve the proposed meeting dates for 2021. Any discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Timothy Young.
Aye.
That so passes. I'll send this to the town clerk, and then we'll get a copy out to you all. Actually, you have a copy already, so that works. The next is we usually will look ahead about scheduling our annual legal training session. We had been, I believe, holding them in April to allow some people who used to be on the commission to go to Florida and come back. We certainly would need to talk with Attorney Roberts to see what works for him. When we hold the annual legal training session, it takes the place of one of our first Thursday meetings. I don't know if anyone has any particular month they would be looking for. I believe the last couple of years we were doing it in April.
Jeff, if I can, I would suggest we hold April 1st and May 6th, perhaps as dates to check with Rich Roberts to see if he can make either one of them, perhaps preferably April 1st, but as a backup, May 6th.
All right, well, I will
Uh,
ask him.
I was wondering, could we move it back a little bit? I know that several members are going to be starting to get really busy. Tim and Mark, especially towards that time of year. So if we could almost maybe back it up a little bit, be better.
You mean earlier in the year?
Yeah.
Well, we do have the March 4th. We have a February 4th. We do, we would want to certainly give enough heads up to Rich to be able to, any questions we have in the usual primer that he goes through with us about planning and zoning. Do you want me to ask him about March 4th? If you
Yes,
want.
please.
Is that okay with you, Joe?
Oh, yep, that's fine. Good consideration.
Okay,
If memory serves me correctly, we did it in January last year.
we did. I thought we did it in April. Maybe we did. Okay. I can find out. I'll find out from him about March 4th and see what's available. And then I can let you know. Okay, I'll ask him.
Is anyone going to Florida for the winter this year from the commission?
I know Dexter used to, and that's why we didn't do it when he was away. But is anybody going to be wintering in Florida or staying here? Sid?
I might go for a week or two, but it's really up in the air right now.
Okay.
So, let's not try to avoid April if that works for everybody.
'Cause what we'll do is I'll look at March 4th. I'll ask Rich and see if that works for him. Okay, I will put that on my to-do list. The other thing we're required to do at our annual business meeting is to review the bylaws. We're not required to read the whole thing into the record unless you want me to. The last time we made revisions of substance was in September of 2018. These original bylaws go back to 1991 when the commission was established. Last year, we didn't have any changes, in which case then we just note for the record, we've done a review. Are there any changes that someone feels that we should be making with the bylaws? In which case, we can certainly then work on trying to draft changes and then bring them to the next meeting that we have. I didn't hear from anybody prior that there were any changes that people wish to make in the bylaws since we made a bunch of changes a couple of years ago. And we can change the bylaws at any meeting we just have to show once a year we've done at least a review. And if there's no need to change the bylaws today, then we just will note it and then we can move forward. So not hearing that there is any burning issue with our bylaws right now, I'll note that we've done the review and we'll go accordingly. Let's see well, preliminary discussion, we don't have any. Non-residential zoning permits, we don't have any. New business, we don't have any. That takes us to old business. It's 7:46. I just want to make certain that we have enough time when we're tackling these two items, which I know are going to generate some discussion for the subdivision on Center Road and for the special permit modification proposal, that we make certain we can give enough time. If we feel we need more time, we certainly have time to be able to table any of these and continue on at a future meeting on them, but we'll make certain we can get through discussion on it. We have agenda item 9A. This is old business number 645-1029. This is Center Road LLC. This is a 3-lot proposed subdivision. We tabled this from the prior meeting that when we took this up. I just would need technically, if someone could make a motion to untable it, then we can begin with it.
I move to take it off the table.
I'll second that.
A motion by Joe Adaletta, seconded by David Morse to untable this agenda item 9A. Any discussion? Hearing none. Joe Adaletta.
Aye.
Mark Blackmer.
Aye.
Sid Blodgett.
Aye.
Gail Dickinson.
Aye.
Jeff Gordon. Aye. Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
Fred Rich.
Aye.
And Tim Young.
Aye.
It is so untabled. I'm just going to do a quick housekeeping item. We did receive some new documents, so I just want to make certain we have them noted in the record. One is a site plan that's been revised, dated November 9th of this year. A letter from design professionals dated November 4th of this year. An E&S control bond estimate revision dated November 5th of this year. Memo from Delia Fay, as well as some email correspondence from November 4th, 5th, 9th, and 12th. A letter from CHA dated November 9th. There was some correspondence from CHA November 5th and November 9th, and some email correspondence based upon the review of the fire marshal November 9th. That's what I have for new documents. What I'm going to do is I'll open it up to the applicant or the applicant's representative to speak to the changes and the revisions, anything that otherwise wish to present. If you're here, just state your name for the record so I can recognize you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Pete Parent with CHA representing the applicant.
Hello, Mr. Parent. How are you this evening?
Good.
If you wanted to, if there's anything you wish to present to us about any of the changes, I know there's been some revisions and some stuff. If there's anything you wish to present to us, by all means, if you would like to.
Certainly. As part of the conversation we had last month, we did provide an overall boundary plan of the parcel showing the northern boundary and the wetlands that were delineated in the field. And then what we've done is provided you with a couple different options here for the layout of the subdivision of the westernmost lot. As Delia noted, this doesn't conform to the letter of the regulations as far as frontage is concerned, and then as far as the number of driveways concerning along those frontage. So, obviously there was some intent here when that 11B was broken off. They left the 50-foot strip on that westernmost lot, and then they also left the frontage on the eastern side. So technically, we could construct a town road or a private road along that 50-foot right-of-way to gain access to the one proposed lot to the west. But that seems, to be overkill for access to one lot to provide something to a town or private road standard where a typical driveway would suffice. So, we presented the options, but we're kind of looking for the commission's input on how best to find something that the commission can be comfortable with approving, but that is also sensible from a construction standpoint. So, we'd like to get your folks' input from that. And then, as far as site plans are concerned, we provided 3 different options for the site plan. One is the same plan that was previously presented to you that shows just a simple private driveway accessing that westernmost lot. Sheet 4A shows what would be a private road or town road accessing that westernmost lot. And then sheet 4B shows an extension of the common driveway we're proposing for the 2 eastern lots that would provide access to that western lot. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the particulars of the design, but essentially, we're before you tonight kind of looking for your input on how best to fit this into the town's requirements.
Thank you. And what I'll do is to help us before, with our discussion further, Delia, I know you had reviewed this and provided some updated memo on this based upon your review from your staff perspective. Is there anything you wish to present to the commission or let the commission know?
I think the issues that I brought up, they are presenting their proposal to it. So I think it's just the decision for the commission to make on those points that I brought up.
Okay. And we have your memo, which is the November 4th memo.
Yes.
Okay. Which outlines some of the stuff. I'll open it up to commissioners with any questions or comments. I have some, but I'll open it up to the rest of you first before I go through anything that I might have as a commissioner. Joe, yes, Joe Adaletta.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to check either with Delia or Mr. Parent on the curb cut distancing. That was clearly a point of curb cuts too close to each other. And this sheet 4B, which is the option with a long driveway servicing the 3 houses. Is that the one, Delia, that's most fully compliant with our regulations as they stand in terms of
Shared
number?
driveway would be,
I'm sorry?
the shared driveway would be.
Would be in compliance. Okay. Are the other plans, is the plan on 4A still out of compliance in terms of the proximity of curb cuts to the existing houses with the single driveway? It looks like the existing houses plus the new single driveway are all pretty close together as curb cuts.
Well, if the commission agrees to grant the additional curb cut, then that's no longer an issue. That's one of the decisions the commission has to make.
Is that a waiver or is that just?
It's allowed in the regulations for the
Okay.
commission to allow for a driveway. Actually, my regulations are in the other room. I'm gonna just run over there and get them and I'll be right back.
Okay. And while Delia's gone, maybe I could just check with Mr. Parent, because the commission has spent a long time going over the regulations and trying to write them and make them understandable to developers and applicants. I'm just wondering if part of the regulations were unclear from the first proposal that you presented that did have some of these conflicts of curb cuts and number of driveways allowed per house. Were the regulations not clear enough to help make your original plan fully compliant with the regulations? Just
I think what we were viewing was that, you know, it has two separate frontages on Center Road and not as a combined frontage of the entire parcel. Based on the way that that was originally divided when 11B was broken off, you know, it appeared to us that there was intent there to allow access on both sides. So that's kind of the thought process we moved forward with when we put together that original design, is that we would be allowed at least one driveway on either side. But that's not the interpretation that Delia has provided. And, you know, certainly I can understand where you can pull that interpretation from the regs. But that's how we had interpreted it when we originally put our plan together.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand things for perhaps future modifications to regulations to help make them clearer for reading and making decisions on developments like this. But thank you.
No problem.
And I also want to comment, if I may, on the lot history table that you put on and did a lot more background search to fill out the different lot letter designations and owners. That was much more detailed than the one from the last meeting. And I like the addition of the lot designation column. Helped make it very easy to follow how the land was divided over the decades.
And I think Delia's back, but Delia, you're referring to in chapter 6 of the subdivision regs, section 6, that talks about new curb cuts. There is a provision that the commission can approve additional curb cuts to an existing public street if, and there's two provisions that have to be met in order for us to do that, to allow additional curb cuts. Other than what is otherwise allowed. So there is a process built into the regulations that if they're only allowed one curb cut, which they would be per our regulations, we could allow a second. It's on page, well, in my version, it's page 67, but it's in chapter 6, it's section 6 called new curb cuts.
Yeah, and those two provisions have kind of conditions. So, okay. Thanks.
And both of them have to be met.
Yeah.
In order for us to say, yep, you can do an additional curb cut beyond the maximum already allowed based upon what my understanding is of it.
Right.
Sid, did you have something?
Jeff, would it be possible for you or Delia to just summarize what those two conditions are? So
Sure, I'll read them if you want. It talks about that, first it talks about that a curb cut yield of 1 per 200 linear feet on each existing town or state road, but not less than a minimum of 1 curb cut is allowed. And it says, provided that no more than the maximum allowed curb cuts are proposed except as allowed below. And then it says that the commission may approve additional curb cuts to an existing public street as part of the final approved plan if the first provision is the provision of additional curb cuts to an existing public street produces a pattern of access and circulation that provides safer vehicular ingress and egress. And the second provision is additional curb cuts to an existing public street produces a configuration of lots, development land, and conservation land in the proposed subdivision that satisfies the requirements and intent of these regulations in a superior manner. And both of those have to be met. And I think that's what you were referencing, Delia, as far as what we could
Yes.
potentially do.
That's correct.
So, and that's what it seems to be. So I got one quick question for you, Delia. I know in your memo of November 4th, you talk about lot frontage in item number 5, and you have capital A, capital B. One is about front lot minimum standards. And then, which I know you addressed in your memo. And then the other is interior or rear lot minimum standards. And which one of them are you referring to as far as the interior rear lot? Is that 11B? If I'm looking at the map, is that the one that, has the little bit of land and then the lot opens up towards the back?
One that would have a single house accessing either the driveway or the private road or whatever you want to call it.
That would be, I believe, 11B.
Right, I guess.
And one of the questions I have then is, our regulations talk about that interior rear lots shall not be allowed. I know you put this in your memo, except that if an interior lot, it may be approved at the rear corners of a cul-de-sac or loop road in a subdivision of 10 acres or more, which doesn't apply here. And then it says, and then it goes on to say, an interior lot may be approved if there is no reasonable alternative for access allowing development of a parcel of less than 10 acres legally existing on August 25th, 2005. And the interior lot is accessed from a common driveway. And then it says, and, not or, it says, and then it says the next provision is an interior lot shall have lot frontage of at least 25 feet on a state highway, town street, or private road approved by the commission. It sounds like, looking at the regulations, that there's two provisions that absolutely have to be met in concert with each other. And is this then lot 11B gonna meet any of those provisions, whether we do a common driveway or not? Because it says a parcel of less than 10 acres, but this parcel isn't less than 10 acres. Is that my understanding?
The zoning regulations, let me make sure I wrote it correctly.
I just want to make certain I'm understanding what was written and also what I think it's going to be that lot.
B says an interior lot may be approved by the commission if there's no reasonable alternative for access allowing development of a parcel of less than 10 acres.
Correct.
Sorry, I was thinking of something else.
Is this less than 10 acres?
No, I was reading the wrong one. The one above it, an interior lot may be approved by the commission at the rear corners of a cul-de-sac
Right.
or loop road on a subdivision of a parcel of 10 acres or more. So this isn't the rear corner of a cul-de-sac or a loop road.
Correct. And then the next two, B and C, are connected by the word and, meaning both provisions have to be met. And I just want to know if your thought was that both these, it's referred to as B and C, both those two provisions are being met then by this interior lot? Because it references a lot being less than 10 acres, and it isn't less than 10, I believe. That's why I'm just asking so I can get clarification. It may be less than 10. I just want to make certain that I'm understanding what you're.
Well, is Attorney Roberts on the meeting today?
I don't know, but I just wanted to make certain I was understanding what you were writing.
Well, I
So,
wrote what was in the regulations.
oh, okay. Because then you wrote the third lot doesn't appear to comply with the front or interior lot standards. I was just trying to follow which exact standards did you not think it complied with?
Well, I don't think it complies with any of them right now, but I don't know if they're going to come up with a revision to the proposal. And I was trying to point out how frontage is different than driveway. So if you allow this second driveway, that doesn't necessarily address the issue of frontage.
Because it may be that the interior lot may not be allowed because it's not less than 10 acres. That's what I was just trying to follow. well, there's a lot 11 is the one that has that very small amount of, the new lot 11 would have a very small amount of frontage. But it's technically more than, it's proposed to be 20.4 acres, so it doesn't meet the less than 10 acre mark.
Greater than 10 acres.
No, it says, yeah, the lot is lot 11, if that's the one in question, it has to be less than 10 acres. Allowing development of a parcel of less than 10 acres. The entire parcel is bigger than 11 acres. It's 26.5, and the new lot 11 is going to be 20.4. But I was just trying to get clarification if that's what you were pointing out to, Delia, that it, separate from the frontage, it doesn't meet those two.
I didn't see how it met A, B, or C.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make certain I was understanding. So it doesn't meet any of them.
Not
Okay.
right now, I don't think.
But I guess the question is, even if it's accessed from a common driveway, it
Well,
would-
there's two requirements that they have to meet. There's the frontage in zoning, and there's the driveway, which in your subdivision regs, you allow for additional driveways. Now, if you decided to allow that second driveway, that could fulfill the access, how to get to the property, but that doesn't resolve the issue of needing frontage. Like a driveway doesn't give you extra frontage. It's just access.
okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
it
Gail?
seems to me the regulations were sort of written to avoid this kind of subdivision. You know, long ribbon lots with lots of curb cuts, you know, thin ribbons. And if they looked at putting in a common drive or even a private road to a cul-de-sac and developing all 3 lots off that cul-de-sac, it would give them just one curb cut and let them meet the regulations for the rear lot as well. So if they brought up a private road or even a public road for that matter, up to 50-foot wide strip to a cul-de-sac, and then had the 3 lots coming off the cul-de-sac, instead of 3 lots trying to come off one already established road, they would then meet the regulations.
Isn't that what they're somewhat proposing in sheet 4B with the driveway coming up between the 2 new lots, 11C and 11D, and then cutting over to lot 11?
It does, but then it doesn't meet the regulations for the rear lot because it's a driveway and not a road.
It's a common driveway.
Well, common driveways are allowed. Why would that be a problem?
But the regulations also say it's regarding a parcel of less than 10 acres.
Mhm.
This isn't a parcel of less than 10 acres, though.
Right, but if it was a road going up that 50-foot piece and terminating the driveways to all 3 pieces, that would then no longer be a rear lot. It would be off that road.
Well, if you look at your zoning regulations,
Mhm.
let's see, it's on my zoning regulations, it's page 54, it's article 4, and the reference is in the memo. So number 2, dimensional requirements, A, and then you go down to Roman numeral 3. All lots except for a permitted interior lot shall have lot frontage. It has 2 options that are allowed under that subsection. And it's the next subsection that's interior lots. So under the subsection that's not called interior lots, which I would think means they're front lots, there's 2 options. One of them is at least 100 feet on a state highway, a town street, or a private road approved by the commission as part of a plan of subdivision, or at least 25 feet on a common driveway approved by the commission as part of a plan of subdivision and outletting to a town street or state highway. I don't see how this proposal doesn't fulfill that. If it's 25 feet in on a common driveway, I don't see how that's not in compliance with that.
But what about the subdivision regulations that we just read?
But
Relative to-
that would not be doing a different, that wouldn't be doing a second driveway, so that wouldn't be an issue anymore. And you have to look at your zoning regulations. there's two sections, or I'm sorry, like subsections on frontage. One of them, and if you want, if you have a few minutes, I can find the regulation and I can share my screen so everybody can look at it. Would you like me to do that?
We could, but we also have to keep in mind, we also have the subdivision regulations about interior lots that have to be met.
Right, but I'm getting to that. If you look at zoning, the zoning regulation, it wouldn't be considered an interior lot in the zoning because
Go ahead and,
different sections. One section is an interior lots. It gives you A, B, and C. And
Yep.
above that is Roman numeral 3, you know, the little I. And that gives you two options, and they're not considered interior lots. So they must be front lots. If you're not an interior lot, then you must be a front lot, right? So there's two provisions there. One of them is 25 feet on a common driveway. And that doesn't say you have to be less than 10 acres or more than 10 acres or whatever. It's below it that has 3 different standards for interior lots. So if you'd like, if you just have a minute, I can find my regulation and share the screen and so everybody can see that page.
I'd like to do that. We can see what you're referring to in zoning, and then also we can show what's in subdivision. Because certainly it has to meet all aspects of the regulation. That's why I raised the question, because I was trying to figure out what exactly was not compliant and what possibly could make it compliant, and I wasn't quite certain. Which part of zoning are you referring to, Delia?
Well, it's above the section that I quoted where I talk about the 3 standards for interior lots. So just a moment, I'm gonna find the page.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it. That's in Article 4. There it is. I have it as page 53 in my book.
Is everybody seeing dimensional requirements at the top of the screen?
Yes. And just so we're clear on the record, this is in the zoning regulations.
Yep. Just gonna make it a little smaller, trying to fit everything on the screen.
And this is the part of the zoning regulations that references subdivision.
Yes, so I'll just go up a little bit so you can see what page we're on. See, it's Article 4, you can see the top of the page, Town of Woodstock zoning regulations, Article 4. And you're going down to the section on C subdivisions. You go to the next page of that section, dimensional requirements. Move down to where you can see my cursor. This is the part right here that has 2 standards that allow how you can be an acceptable lot. It says all lots except for permitted interior lots shall have lot frontage. It gives you 2 options. Down here for Roman numeral 4, that's your 3 standards for interior lots. So if you meet this part up here, you don't have to meet this part down here.
Okay.
So those are your options. You can either be in Roman numeral 3
Okay.
or you're down here. You don't have to do both Roman numeral 3 and Roman numeral 4. So if
Yeah,
you're
that
in
answers my
compliance,
question.
then you're in compliance as a lot, and then driveway is a separate issue. That's why I detailed it. I tried to detail it clearly in my memo about breaking them out as 2 separate issues.
All right, that's why I asked for the clarification. So basically you're saying that in order to meet the revisions of that Roman numeral 3, we would have to have a either a private or public road. It has to have the frontage, or we would have to have a common driveway.
Yes,
Okay. And if it does that, then the interior lot issue isn't then an issue.
right. If you meet Roman numeral 3B or lowercase b, I don't know how you actually describe that in words. But if you're where the cursor is, then you're not considered an interior lot because you're not down here under the section that's called interior lots.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make, that's why I was asking, because I was trying to figure out what exactly was up. That answered the question for me. I just want to make certain if that was clear for everybody on the commission, what Delia was explaining.
Yes, this is
Okay.
Dave Morse. So that makes that the plan 4B is the only one that meets the standards, meets zoning regs.
Delia?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And that would be the one that includes, that's the one that has the common driveway, correct, Delia?
Yes, the common driveway that serves all 3 lots, not just 2 of them.
So if then one does the common driveway for all 3 lots, the regulations are satisfied
For zoning.
for zoning.
And then you have to, well, I guess then you don't need the second driveway, so that should be a moot point.
That would seem to be the case then from what you described, that a common driveway serving all 3 lots, it would just be one common driveway and the curb cut issue then is satisfied because it's just one curb cut.
So that alternate site plan on sheet 4B looks like the one to give appropriate consideration for approval.
I would
And I
think
guess
you'd have to have some kind of a boundary for the easement to show that you have your frontage on the common driveway. At least in all the other subdivisions, the common driveway has had a, not a property boundary, but like an easement boundary, and then you know how much frontage each lot has. Does that make sense? So then you would know that whatever you're calling that larger lot, it should have its frontage because it comes up to the edge of the easement.
The easement for the common driveway or the easement to Center Road?
The easement to the common driveway.
Doesn't it show that?
It does on 4B, there's a little thing that says, provide 25 feet of frontage to the common driveway.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm looking at a different page or something. Oh, I see it. My little tiny corner office of the dining room isn't set up to look at giant plants.
And I guess if one does a common driveway, Delia, it would have to be determined if any pull-offs are needed. And what about the turnaround area that our regulations require?
Yes,
Which would have to then, I don't know if that's on this to the satisfaction of the
I don't
regulation.
see any pull-offs. I mean, I see, well, that thing at the end, I guess, maybe that's considered a pull-off.
It would have to be determined if that would meet those requirements. And we would also then need to make certain, we have design professionals needs to take a look through these new documents. I didn't see anything that design professionals has provided us any review of the revised site plans, including this sheet 4B. That's all listed as November 9th.
I don't think they saw it.
Okay,
I think November 9th was the deadline for this meeting.
so then we would certainly need design professionals review, and also, I don't know if design professionals has even reviewed or reported back to us about the drainage report. That's part of this application. I don't remember seeing that. Yep, no, stormwater drainage analysis, so it looks like they did. So would they really, what design professionals then is gonna have to review the proposed revision, which would be the common driveway. And then we would have to check to make certain the proposed common driveway meets the common driveway regulations, and also a homeowners or maintenance agreement would have to be provided and reviewed based upon the, our regulations for common driveways. Just so that we're clear, it sounds like then, Delia, from what you're telling us, this common driveway proposal could then meet the regulations as far as allowing access to all 3 lots off of the road.
I think so.
Okay. Anything, any other questions or anything further on this item about the common driveway from commissioners?
Jeff?
Yes, Sid.
Sid Blodgett. Probably stating the obvious, but if the applicant or owner doesn't want to go through the common driveway process, you can simply scale this back to 2 house lots and probably get a quicker or less expensive result.
Okay,
And just for an additional review, I saw Richard Barron and John Navarro had weighed in on this earlier plan. Have they do they need to weigh in on this one? And looking at the 4B, sheet 4B as maybe the potential final plan for them to give consideration.
Delia, did you want to answer that? My sense is yes, they would
I would
both.
think, yes, you'd want their input.
And one question, Delia, did we get NDDH approval?
I
Was there
thought
an-
we did. Is Tina here? Can she? I thought we had it.
Maybe I missed it.
I thought it was last month. Is the applicant here? They can answer?
Mr. Parent, was NDDH approval received, an approval document?
I have not received an official approval letter from Maureen at NDDH. I did get an email from her indicating that she was going to approve it, but I don't believe we have an official document yet.
Oh, I thought we had like, it wasn't a letter. I thought it was,
Oh, we have soil testing that proves that the soils are suitable for septic, but we don't have an approval of the actual designs yet.
well, then the commission needs that to make a decision.
Yes, we do.
Well,
For our regulation.
Sounds like we need to table this, at least until we get the design professionals input, the fire marshal and highway foreman and NDDH input.
We would have no choice based upon that there are additional approvals pending, and we would need to have some additional reviews based upon the revisions, especially that we're looking at the common driveway option that's on sheet 4B. So we would certainly we would have to table it. Our next business meeting, well, our next meeting is December 3rd, which would be a special meeting. And our next business meeting is December 17th. We do need to make certain we give enough time for the reviews to happen and to be received. So I don't know, Delia, if this would be all reviewed in time for a meeting that is coming up in 2 weeks versus needing to make certain we have enough time for things to be reviewed.
Well, I
Right,
can send the plans that have sheet 4B to design professionals, the fire marshal and the highway foreman tomorrow. And let them know that if you're gonna, I don't know, how much time do they have if they have to meet the 10-day before the meeting? That might cut it a little close, but I think they could do it by the
Actually, the
meeting.
meeting packets for December 3rd would have to be, well, potentially we'd have to be looking at sending them out next week, although we have the holiday on Thursday and Friday is,
I think they
town
could
hall.
do it in time for the meeting, but I'm not sure about the 10 days.
we
That
we
would
would
be-
not be receiving documents in time to get out to commissioners in time. It would really then have to be the December 17th meeting to be able to
Well,
get.
I can
them in.
mail them to you if you, if they give me their comments, even though the town hall is closed, I could get them by email and I could mail them to you.
The only
mail-
problem, looking at the calendar with a meeting in 2 weeks, I'm not, quite frankly, I'm not certain we're gonna get documents out in time, especially with meeting packets to commissioners in time, which we would want to make certain commissioners have enough time to review.
With the
Doc-
holiday, I can't, I mean, I was thinking we had enough time to get the reviews back, but with the holiday, I can't, I don't make any promises on other people's schedules.
My recommendation would be as chair that we look, if we're going to table this, which we'll have to give enough time for everything to happen, we would have to table to the December 17th meeting. that would be the meeting, and then we would have enough time to make certain things are reviewed, things are received, things are then gotten out to all of you commissioners, with enough lead time to be able to review things, as opposed to trying to get some of these documents a day or two out to you before the meeting, which doesn't work at
So-
that late.
I have a question for you, Jeff.
So one
I
quick,
didn't calculate the days on this.
yeah, one quick thing. So it looks like December 17th may well be what we may have to do. That gets into the other item I think you're raising, Delia, about the number of days.
Right, I didn't count the days on this because I wasn't anticipating that. And this is not a hearing, so do we need an extension request?
Well, let me just see. You have your timeline, don't you?
I didn't do one for this. Sorry, I didn't get.
I have your, let me just pull this up here. I have your timelines here. Let me just see if I can find, this one is for a subdivision application timeline. So I'm just looking here. This one doesn't require a public hearing.
Right,
So I'm just trying to see. It says here, if a public hearing is not scheduled, P and Z has 65 days to render a decision. We took this up on what date? We took this up,
wasn't it new last month?
I believe it was. So we're still within the 65 days. However, the applicant may request extensions going up to an additional 65 days.
So if we're within the first 65, we don't need the extension yet.
We are within the first 65 days is my understanding. Our meeting last month was, when was that? That would have been October 22nd? No, October 15th. So that's 7, 14, 28. That's going to be 35, and then we're talking, oops, let me just get back to, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 30. That just literally takes us right up to 65 days for December 17th.
Well, if there should be like a snow day or something, should we just see if they'll give us an extension just in case we need it?
We can ask Mr. Parent if, in order to be able to meet all of these requirements and give enough time to sort through it all, it looks like we could make the 65 days. If for some reason something happens with weather and we can't meet on December 17th, we're going to need an extension request. If you wanted to request an extension, beyond that, if we can't meet on that date, we can certainly receive it and accept it. Otherwise, what will happen is if we get beyond the 65 days and there's no extension and we don't have all the information we need, or it doesn't meet the regulations, then it becomes a denial. So I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm explaining from a process point of view, Mr. Parent.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get that request to you.
Okay, and I appreciate it. That way we can make certain, that's a good point, Delia. We don't know what might happen with weather in December. So. Was there anything further with the commission tonight on this, or is this something the commission then is looking to table and take back up? I would suggest the December 17th meeting, and then we would have hopefully a bunch of new documents and reviews. But I want to make certain everyone's had a chance to weigh in.
I'm all set with tabling it.
Okay. I just want to make certain I didn't miss anybody on the commission who wanted to speak and I didn't see your hand. Okay. If you want to unshare your screen, Delia.
Yep, one moment.
So since I don't hear from on anything else relative to for tonight on this, is there a motion to table this to December 17th? Our meeting will be starting at 7:30.
So moved, Dave Morse.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Gail Dickinson.
All right. And so motion by David Morse, seconded by Gail Dickinson, to table this item to our meeting of December 17th. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta?
Aye.
Let me just. Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Markot,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Tim Young.
Aye.
That so passes. And Mr. Parent, if you could just send in that extension request to Tina at Town Hall, that will cover us if needed. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. All right, let me just get all of my files here together. Oh, this is a big one, big file on the next one. So our next agenda item is agenda item 9B. This is number SP 6400424. This is the Woodstock Country Store special permit modification of a prior approved special permit. We had closed the public hearing on this, and then we tabled this as old business to tonight. So if someone would be kind enough to make a motion to untable it, then we can proceed accordingly.
Move, we take it off the table.
Second.
Second.
Go ahead, Tim.
Is that you? That was you, Tim?
Yep. I just wanted you all to know I'm still awake.
All right. So motion by Gail Dickinson, seconded by Tim Young to untable agenda item 9B. I'll go through the roll unless there's any discussion on the motion. Okay. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon. Yes. Jeff Markot.
Aye.
Okay. David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Tim Young.
Aye.
It is so untabled. I do have just a couple of quick items I need to note for the record here. So that way we have this listed. I just need, let's see, this is, nope. As far as the number of days remaining, if I've done the calculations correctly and taking into account that the governor has continued his executive orders, based upon state statute, we could have up to 108 days to do our deliberation. In additional, we have 7 remaining days from executive order provisions. So in total, we could, the maximum amount of time we have to do our deliberation before a decision is required is 115 days, which I believe takes us until March 14th of next year. I'm not suggesting we do it, but I just want the commission to know that we do have ample time. And some of the additional time to deliberate, I believe we would have to get some extension requests. But we do have time available to us in order to do our deliberations here. That's the only thing that I need to state as far as what we have for that. Just going to remind everybody, I know commissioners know this, going to remind the applicants representatives, and the public that the only people who are going to be able to have a discussion at this point forward are commissioners and staff. The public hearing was closed prior, so there is no further input we can receive from applicant representatives, or from commissioners. We can't receive any we can't bring up anything that has not been discussed in public hearing. So our discussion is all going to be based upon discussions that were had in public hearing. If for some reason something's discussed that wasn't discussed in public hearing, then that could be an issue, and I'll have to rule it out of order. But we were very broad in our discussion in public hearing, and things that were brought up by the public and by us. So there are many things on the table that we could potentially discuss here. At this point, normally the way we would proceed then, if we so wished, is we could just delve into a discussion, or we can have a motion made to one way or the other about this application. there's certainly opportunities to make amendments to motions and to make additional motions if needed. If the commission so wishes to do it that way, unless you wish at this point just to delve into further discussion without any motion to approve or not approve, however you wish to handle it.
Jeff,
No.
I wouldn't mind making a motion to approve the plan with a change in condition of reducing the number of fueling stations from 3 to 2, which could still allow servicing 4 vehicles with a proportionate reduction in the fueling station canopy width, which is currently 72 feet 6 inches, could be reduced by 24 feet, and a proportionate reduction in the lighting under the canopy.
All right, let me just make certain I got this. And if you don't mind, Joe, could you make certain that when you're talking about approving the application, we need to note on the record that the applicant did withdraw the part of the application for the LED sign part for the fueling prices? That was withdrawn. So I just want to make certain if it's okay with you.
Certainly.
About approving and your conditions, the approving the application is also based upon the withdrawal of that LED fueling price sign.
That would work. Yes, that's fine to add as one of the conditions.
Because the applicant already withdrew that
Yeah.
during public hearing. So that way we're just clear what is the application we're doing. So I'm just going to write this down so I can get the motion, then I'll reread it to make certain I got what you said. So it would be, if I got this correct, Joe, it would be to approve the application with the note that the applicant has already withdrawn the LED fuel pricing part of the sign. And with conditions to decrease, you said the number of pumps from 6 to 4?
No, from fueling stations from 3 to 2.
Okay. From 3 to 2, okay. And with an appropriate or the proportional decrease in the canopy size and the under canopy lighting.
Correct.
Okay, that's your motion?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Mr.
I
Chairman, I'd
second.
second it if Joe can answer as to whether that would then bring the whole project into compliance with our lighting regulations, so they won't need a waiver.
I was trying to look at that, Gail, and I was hoping that it would, but I can't confirm that at this point.
It would not, because there's also spillage of lighting onto especially Barlow Cemetery Road from some lights, not from the canopy light, that would also require a waiver request. If that
But it
answers-
would reduce some of the overall lighting from the site, so it wouldn't be quite as over our limit for the overall site. But I don't have that number.
Yeah, I don't know that number. We would still have to grant a waiver for the intensity of the lighting under the canopy. And we would still have to consider a waiver for spillage of light beyond the boundary line, which includes the spillage that goes out into part of Barlow Cemetery Road. If that
Okay.
answers your question, Gail?
In part answer my question, but we can address this when we get to the waivers as well. So I'll go ahead and second Joe's motion.
Okay. So I'll note that the motion is by Joe Adaletta, seconded by Gail Dickinson. We would then, I'll open it up to, at this point, it's open for commissioners. Since we talked about the lighting, I'll just raise something about the lighting. I've already mentioned about the waivers that would be needed. And one would be for the total lumens exceeding 0.25 beyond the property line. That would be one waiver request. The other is being addressed potentially by the decrease in a canopy size as far as the total lumens that are allowed. And then the other waiver that would have to would be for the intensity of lighting being more than 10 lumens under the canopy. Those would be the waiver requests that we would have to deal with. One of the questions I have, well, not a question, but one of the comments I have is, if we're having to deal with a potential waiver request for lighting that spills out into part of Barlow Cemetery Road and goes close to the other side of the road, but not over the other side of the road, wouldn't there be potentially some way to do some partial shielding? So the lighting actually would stay on the driveway mostly and not have as much spillage? Because we did, that is going beyond the property line. So I do raise that as a question. Fred?
Two comments. One, I disagree with the motion. There's been some talk about how the gas station in South Woodstock, or Putnam actually, is never had traffic backed up. Well, I go by there quite a bit, and several times I've seen either a lawnmower guy or a chipper guy, one on each side of the pump that sits there for quite a while filling extra gas cans and everything. So that backs up traffic quite a bit, despite the fact that somebody made the comment about there's never any backup there. Secondly, on the lighting on Barlow Cemetery, if everybody's concerned about the traffic there and the safety, I would think that a little extra lighting wouldn't hurt on that corner, as long as it doesn't go on the other property, which it doesn't seem so it will. It's in the street. Two reasons so far anyway why I object to what you're discussing right now.
Thank you, Fred. Anything?
Mr. Chairman, if I may speak,
Yes, Joy, please go ahead.
going back to what you were saying, sir, there is shielding available for certain LED fixtures that could potentially keep the light, within the, on a down, straight down type of setup on the entrance and exit of Barlow Cemetery Road, where we wouldn't have so much spillover there. And in regard to decreasing the amount of pumps, I'm just concerned if one of those pumps is a diesel pump, and that's the reason for that amount on that island.
Thank you, Dwight. Anything from other commissioners who wish to speak?
If I can comment, maybe
Joe?
just on the queuing, I've made the point a lot about the extra mart on Route 171 having only 2 pumps, and certainly with a pickup truck and a trailer filling up the truck and the equipment, lawn equipment or whatnot on it, it can occupy the 2 spots there that would normally be taken by 2 vehicles. But the extra mart is a far smaller driveway area and service area at the Woodstock Valley Country Store. There's a lot of room in the back part of the facility that would allow cars and vehicles to come in and queue up outside and off of Route 171.
Anything from other commissioners who wish to speak about the special permit modification? We have the motion on the table. Anything relative to that? Anything additional?
This is Dave Morse. I think that the cutting it back to 2 pumps is fine. It'll reduce the overall light and the size of the structure. And also, these pumps are set up differently than the ones on the Extra Mart. The ones on the Extra Mart, you can have one big truck there. It'll block both pumps on one side. And these are set up so that people are going tandem, not parallel to them. Just a note.
Yeah.
They're more efficient. And if oftentimes if a pump has diesel, it's got 2 hoses on it. It's got a gas on one side and diesel on the other. Just from filling up my trucks, I've noticed that. So that's.
In fact, that's how it is at the Extra Mart. The Extra Mart has diesel on the pump.
And a separate hose. Delia, then Sid? Go ahead, Gail.
Someone said something about cutting down the size of the structure. I don't know what that meant, but you didn't look at any plans about what size the structure would be. I don't know what you meant by that. What structure?
Joe,
The structure over the canopy over the pumps.
That's currently shown on the drawing. It's 72 feet, 6 inches long to cover the 3 stations. And I'm assuming it could be reduced by about 1/3 by taking out one of the 3 fueling stations. So it could be reduced by about 24 feet.
Sid, you had,
Regarding local gas stations, the Citgo station in Pomfret just has 2 pumps. Kelly's in Putnam just has 2 pumps. It seems to be a common, almost standard size for this part of the state. Something else, though, that I've been wondering about are the dimensions of both the store and the apartment. The store is proposed to be 3,000 square feet. The apartment, 1,400 square feet. What seems to be out of the equation is the 1,600 feet of storage on that lower level. And I don't know if that's going to be exclusively used by the renters of the apartment, at which point it bumps it up to 3,000 square feet, or whether that storage area is for the exclusive use of the store. But to me, it's kind of a loose end that was just hanging out there. I don't have a good solution, but maybe Delia does.
I believe I heard them say that was for the use of the store.
that was
Okay.
my understanding, Sid, if I heard
All right.
things correctly.
Let me look through some of the recent paperwork. I might have seen something else, but
Anything anything additional from commissioners? If not, I'm going to loop back to the light that goes over on Barlow Cemetery Road. I understand that, some of the discussion about wanting to make certain you have enough lighting that's the show coming in and coming out of the driveway. On the other hand, when we spent a long time previously going through the lighting regulations and getting input about them and what the community wanted to see and not to see, we heard repeatedly about wanting to minimize too much lighting spilling off onto outside of the boundary. And again, these lighting regulations we have are for non-residential, non-agriculture, which includes commercial entity, such as a gas station. If things could be potentially shielded in a way to cut down on that spillage of light over, I think that would also then cut down, may not completely get rid of the need for a waiver, but it would be more compliant towards our regulations about spillage of light over lot lines. And granted, it's over a street, but nevertheless, we did take great pains previously to have discussions about light spillage beyond lot lines. So I would be in favor of seeing what could be done as a condition to somehow do some partial shielding of the lights that are there proposed by the driveway that spill off onto Barlow Cemetery Road, and you're still maintaining enough lighting that goes onto the driveway itself and on the property itself. Tim, there's something you wanted to speak to about it?
I'd kind of like to make that an amendment to Joe's motion of acceptance, that shields be put on the lights, not to allow them to the lighting to go on to another person's property. To have them spill over into the town road a little bit, okay, a waiver can cover that, but I think given the regulations for protecting lighting, I think it's unacceptable to have the regulations and then waiver to allow that to happen. I mean, it shouldn't be that lighting spill over onto someone else's property. I understand the safety issues with the road and a little spillage on the road I don't think is a bad thing, but I think it's unacceptable to go across the road.
And the lighting on Barlow Cemetery Road that spills over does spill over close, I believe, to the other side, but I don't believe the amount of lumens that reaches the other side of that road then is beyond our limit. It's really what spills off into the road. And so if there's a way to partially shield that to minimize what gets out into the road, but you're still covering the driveway and the property, that would be, you know, more compliant towards our regulations. And it sounds like that's what you were making a
Yes.
motion about that, about partially
Yeah.
shielding the lighting that's on the driveways to not have it. You're saying not to have it go beyond our limits that we set, or decrease it, but still, if it goes beyond the limits, we would grant the waiver. I was trying to understand what your motion was.
I think to allow some spillage into the road is somewhat acceptable just for the aspect of safety, but to allow it to cross the road, I think is totally unacceptable given the regulations that are in place at this time.
Okay. That is your motion, and just so it's clear, if partial shielding is done, there could still be spillage some spillage that might go over. It would be less, and that still would require us to grant a waiver, but it will be less spillage beyond the lot line. Okay.
Right.
So I'll wrote that down, so I have it written. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Was that you, Joe?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I'm comfortable adding that to the main motion, my main motion.
Are you comfortable adding it as a friendly amendment, or?
Yes.
Gail, you seconded the original motion. Are you comfortable having what Tim's motion added as a friendly amendment to the main motion?
I am.
Okay, so what I'll note then is that if we're going to add it as a friendly amendment on, we don't need to vote on that. It will become part of the main motion, unless anybody is objecting and wishes to separately want to have a motion on this. Otherwise, it would just be part of the main motion then. So I'll note that.
And just to give the rest of the commissioners some feeling on the reduction in lighting, if the canopy is reduced, there are two of the C1 fixtures in the canopy that presumably would be eliminated, each one of them rated based on the lighting diagram at 7,936 lumens. So the two of them would reduce the overall lumens by about 15,800 lumens.
And that actually may,
Gets us closer.
that would seemingly, that could potentially actually get that to within, how much did it reduce it by, Joe? Did you say?
Yeah, 15,870 lumens.
If that were to be that reduction, that cuts in half the excess number of lumens that's being proposed. It would drop it down. It still would require a waiver for us to have the total lumens. It would cut it down.
Right.
By half how much additional is being proposed, because what's being proposed is not that far off from what's allowed, and probably there's more allowed than we calculated based upon the total developed land. But okay. Anything additional from commissioners regarding the motion that we have? One thing we do have to take into
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Marcotte.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
I would be in favor of, in lieu of reducing that from 3 pumps or 3 fueling stations to 2 fueling stations, I would be in favor of doing something like limiting the business hours of the 3rd fueling station. So sun up to sundown, half an hour before sunrise to sunset, and that would also quell the or get us closer to our lumens turn the lights off on that third set of pumps, and it would reduce the lighting, and yet give them that diesel pump probably on the end during the daylight hours.
Okay. I want to make sure, is there any other commissioners that I didn't? One thing we do need to note as well is we would also have to approve the ENS control bond of 13,800. Which is something as well we need to be keeping in mind that we would have to,
The actual ENS plan.
in the ENS, yep, I haven't gotten to that part here, but the ENS control bond, we would need to approve. The ENS control plan, I know, was signed off on by design professionals. We noted that during the public hearing, we would also have to have a motion as well then to approve that plan, that we're required to do that. So we just got to keep in mind, we have those two motions as well as we still have 3 waiver requests. I know the waiver request about having more than 10 lumens below the gas pump canopy, if the canopy size were to be decreased, and thus you have less of those under canopy lights that are more than what we had otherwise listed for a rural town, in keeping with the the Illuminating Engineering Society's work with the International Dark Sky Association, that would actually, even if the lumens under the canopy are more than 10 lumen limit, it still is overall less number of under canopy lights that would be of that intensity. That would also seem potentially to dovetail into a request for the waiver for the brightness of the under canopy lights. I'm just looking at my notes to make certain there's nothing else we need to vote on. Nope, there isn't anything else there. Anything else additional from commissioners? Okay, just so we know, the motion that's currently on the table is to approve the application with noting that the LED fueling prices that would otherwise would be on the sign have been withdrawn as part of the sign at this time, and that conditions are to decrease the fueling station number of fueling stations from 3 to 2, with a proportional decrease in canopy size, and the under canopy, the number of under canopy lights, and as well have partial shielding on the driveway lights to decrease how much lighting spills beyond the lot line. That's the motion that we have on the table right now, if I got that correctly. Fred?
Jeff, if you're changing the plans on this gas station, is that gonna have to make them start all over again and bring it back to us?
No, it doesn't. I did ask Attorney Roberts that question somewhere in my notes here. This is what happens when you have too many notes. You have a folder that you have to keep together by large elastic bands. So I did ask him a process question. So we would be prepared for that. And one way of handling it would be that if we were to approve this with conditions such as what we have, then we could approve it with a stipulation that a compliant site plan be prepared and delivered. It would then need to be, it can be reviewed by Delia, Tina, and I can sign off of it as chair, that meets the conditions of the approval. So if we were to say, we'll approve this, but you have to have 2, fueling stations, and you have to have the canopy decreased in size. Well, we'll approve this, but that's conditional that you'll get everything signed off on by us if the site plan comes to us and it's compliant with the conditions of that approval. That's what I had asked the process of Attorney Roberts, and that's what he replied. I don't know if he's able to join us tonight. I know he had another meeting. Oh, he is here. Rich, did you hear what I said? Is that?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yep. Did I read it correctly based upon
Yeah.
what you?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
as long as you're clear on what your conditions are, and you're clear that the stipulation is that a site plan that complies with those conditions and the regulations be submitted.
okay, so does that answer the question then about not having to have a whole new set of plans delivered to us that then would, at that point, then that becomes an issue as far as being outside of public hearing, having to go back through the process. The only other option would be to deny it, the application, and then have a new one resubmitted at some point that meets things that we were discussing. But there is a process that we do have that we wouldn't have to do that.
Jeff,
Yes.
would you also be looking at a new lighting plan from the change in plans? Not just a structural plan, but a lighting plan?
Yes, that would have to be that there would have to be new pertinent parts of the site plan. Would
Okay,
have provided to us. That would have to include, whatever is redrawn. It would also have to include the lighting plan, correct?
great. Thank you.
So we have to keep that in mind then, we would have to make certain that we put that into the motion as far as what would happen with that process.
Yep.
Thank you, Rich. Sid, did I catch your hand up? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, at an earlier meeting, there was some discussion about reducing the number of parking spots, I believe from 26 down to 19. I do see in Burton Engineering's project description dated April 3rd, revised October 26th, that they do reference the 19 parking spots. Does this need to be part of our approval, that reduction, or is that kind of not necessary?
Delia, did you want to weigh in? If they're already proposing 19 parking spots, we don't need to condition that then.
I don't believe so. They corrected their document to say that it was only 19 and the plan itself shows 19.
Okay, all right. I didn't quite see it on the plan. I only saw it in this project description. But if it's on the plan, that's fine.
Okay. Is there any discussion further on this motion that we have, or anything further regarding proposed waivers for lighting, or anything regarding any other aspects of the special permit modification that commissioners would wish to discuss?
Do we have to vote on the waivers before we vote on this motion?
Yes, we do. And we have 3 waiver requests, and I'll read them. One is for, these are all from zoning regulations. This gets into, I think, the zoning regs, yep, our articles. So it's Article 6, F5A 2, which is having greater than 0.25 lumens go beyond the property line. Another waiver request is Article 6, F4B 1, having more than the allowed total lumens in the finished developed area. And then there's a waiver request for Article 6, F4B4, about having under canopy lighting that is greater than 10 lumens of intensity. Those are the 3 waiver requests. Yes, Gail, we would need to vote on the waiver requests, and we would also need to vote on approving the ENS control plan and the control bond before we would finalize any motion about approval of the special permit modification.
If I can maybe give a little data, Jeff, on some of the overall lighting under the existing proposal with the 3 fueling stations, and I'm willing to hear from Burton if the numbers that I'm going to say that I got during our last hearing are incorrect. I believe that what.
Just so you know, Joe, we won't be able to get any answer from Burton Engineering. 'Cause we're
Okay,
out public hearing.
All right, on their proposal, they indicated that they calculated by some of their reductions already in the lighting that they would have 106, 152 lumens overall. They also calculated that based on the developed site, they'd be allowed 76,310 lumens. So with the 106 lumens versus 76 lumens, they were about 39% over our allowable limit. But if the two lights under the canopy, which total 15,800 lumens, are reduced from that overall, that puts them at 13,900 lumens over, which is 18% over the overall allowable limit. So it is a significant reduction. It's not within our limits, but the waiver is still needed.
It is, and one thing, if I can just follow up on that, Joe, I know there was some discussion as well that what is being calculated as the total developed land may not fully take into account all of the developed land. There was some discussion that that might be a little bit of an underestimation, thus they might be allowed a little bit more lumens than otherwise was discussed. But even so, then one would be talking not much in the way of lumens above the total limit.
Yep. There was discussion that we went from 69,000 allowed lumens based on a calculation up to the 76,310 lumens allowed. I think based on what you're saying, that some of the developed land area was not fully included in the original calculation.
Okay. Was there anybody who I didn't see on the commission that I didn't recognize? I want to make certain everyone has had a chance to weigh in and dealing with the motions. Sid?
Hey, Julie, can I just run something by you? The 1,600 feet of unclaimed storage area. If the applicant in the future wishes, or I should say the owner in the future, wishes to expand his apartment into that 1,600 square feet, he would have to come before P&Z or at least your office for approval. Is that right?
Well, it's part of the special permit, so I believe so, but you can confirm it with Attorney Roberts.
We can ask Rich, wouldn't that then be having to come back for another modification of a special permit?
Yep.
Okay. Likewise, if the business were to expand into that 1,600 square feet, or if the owner wished to lease out that 1,600 square feet as a storage unit, under those two scenarios, would the owner need to come before the town? Whoops.
It sounded like, from what you were saying, that the storage was associated with the business already. So I guess if it was converted to retail space, it probably would have to come back to you. If it was leased for an unrelated purpose, it would probably have to come back to you.
All right.
If it was used in conjunction with the business other than as, for example, selling retail space, if they used it as office space or something like that, it might not have to.
Okay. It is referenced in this same project description. It seems like it might be associated with the apartment, but I guess it's not real clear.
It was my impression that it was to be used by the business. I think in their floor plan, they show the apartment and they show that it does not include the full extent of the ground floor. They show the apartment complying with the regulations at the 1,406 square feet, which is the size of the current dwelling on site.
Yeah. Well, just as project description says on page 3, the basement level labeled as first floor on the building plans will be 1 2-bedroom apartment with storage space for owner use, period. It then goes on and talks about the upper floor with no reference to storage. But anyway, it's probably a minor issue. I'm just trying to think about down the road and what that might be used for.
Wait, dear, I just want to make certain, but before you speak, I just want to make certain we heard what the rest that Sid was saying. What were you saying?
I think that's about it. That this probably is a minor issue, but it just kind of keeps nagging at me.
What were you saying, Delia?
I said that if you wanted to make it as a condition, the condition should be printed on the Mylars. So in the future, if anyone looks at them, they don't have to go like to a separate place to the minutes to see. But also any conditions that you have go into the notice of special permit, which also gets recorded on the land records. Just the Mylars get filed with Mylars, documents on the land records get filed on paper in a book, you know, the bound like a book, and the minutes are in where the minutes go. So they would be in 3 different places if you wanted to do it that way.
Thank you for that, but it's not something that I'm going to pursue or request.
Does anyone have anything further from commissioners? Otherwise, we do need to take up the waiver requests, which we have 3 of them.
Hey,
Sid?
Jeff?
Yes.
My screen just went pretty much blank, except for allowing me to upgrade to Zoom 5.0. So I'm going to sign out, then I'm going to sign back in, and hopefully this thing will disappear.
Okay, yeah, because I can see you well on our screen here. So, okay,
I can't see a thing. So I'll be back.
okay. Was there anybody else from the commission who had any questions or anything further other than we do need to deal with the waivers?
I would make a motion, Jeff, if there are no other questions, to allow the waivers as you identified, those 3 separate waivers.
So that would be to approve the 3 waivers that I mentioned.
There we go.
Yes,
Can
correct.
we take them one by one?
If people wish to take them one by one, the motion right now is for 3.
Well, I'm okay doing it one by one if we want to do it that way. So the first
Okay.
waiver,
The first waiver that I have listed, Joe, is for the greater than 0.25 lumens that go beyond the property line. That's the first waiver that I have listed, if that's okay with you. I can just take them in the order that I have them printed.
right, right.
Is that
Yes.
fine for you as far as that motion?
Yes,
Is there a second?
I'll second that, but that the shielding is also included in the original approval.
Yes, it is, but the shielding may not fully prevent that increased lighting from going beyond the property line. It was discussed that it could decrease how much goes beyond it, but it may not decrease the total lumen, even if it's like a foot or 2 beyond the property line. So the waiver request would cover us.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have light going on to another person's property along with Tim's concern there.
If we do the partial shielding, it would not be going into somebody else's property as far as the lighting plan would show right now. And any lighting that would go beyond the property line really would be onto the streets.
Okay, then I'll second.
Okay. I just want to remind commissioners that we do have in our regulations in Article 6, Section F under lighting, we have a section about waivers. And in fact, we have a bunch of criteria that has to be met in order for us to grant a waiver. Do we have any discussion regarding this waiver request? If not, then I can go through the criteria we need to go through to make certain we meet before we can approve the waiver. Okay, so what we're required to say is that we may waive a lighting requirement provided we determine that such modification is consistent with the purposes of these regulations in the following cases. One is where an applicant can demonstrate by means of a history of vandalism or other objective means that an extraordinary need for security exists, or where an applicant can show that conditions are hazardous to the public, or where a minor change is proposed to an existing non-conforming lighting installation such that it would be unreasonable to require replacement of the entire installation, or where special consideration is given to maintain uniformity with similar uses of the immediate vicinity, or where ornamental uplighting of sculpture, buildings, or landscape features will enhance the character of the area. Do we feel that this waiver request would be consistent with the purposes of the regulations? Or is there anyone who feels that it does not? We then have to say that we then have the following criteria in determining appropriateness, and each one of these has to be met. Traffic or other hazards will not be created. General property values will be conserved. No adverse effects on existing uses in the area will be created. General welfare and safety of the community will be served. No adverse environmental impacts will be created, and topography of the land makes the property suitable for the requested waiver. Does anyone feel that any one of those provisions is not met? And then when we consider a waiver, the commission shall only approve such waiver upon a finding that the following conditions are met. And each one of these has to be met. Would be in harmony with the purposes and intents of these regulations and the plan of conservation and development. Would not create public health, safety, welfare, traffic, or other hazards. Would not have a significant adverse impact on adjacent properties, property values, or existing uses in the area. Would not create adverse environmental impacts, and would be suitable for the topography of the land. Does anyone on the commission feel that any one of those conditions are not being met with regards to this waiver request? Okay. In that case, then we would take a vote on the waiver request. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
aye,
and Tim Young.
Aye.
That so passes. So that waiver request is granted. The next waiver request that I have listed here is allowing the total number of lumens to be beyond what is otherwise allowed for the total finished developed area. I don't know if someone wishes to make a motion or not.
I'll move that we allow that waiver.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by David Moore, seconded by Tim Young. Just for sake of brevity, unless you wish me to, I don't have to go through reading that whole page of the regulations. Does anybody feel that this waiver request is not consistent with the purposes of the regulations, doesn't meet any of the criteria for determining the appropriateness of a waiver, and doesn't meet any of the 5 conditions we've set out that are required to approve a waiver? Does anyone basically then have any objection to this waiver request? Hearing no objection, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
aye,
and Tim Young.
Aye.
That so passes. Then the next waiver request, which is the last waiver request that I have listed, let me go to my other page here, is to allow more than 10 lumens of lighting under the gas canopy. Again, I'll just ask if anyone feels or objects to this waiver not being consistent with the purposes of these regulations, not following the criteria when determining the appropriateness of a waiver, and not meeting any of the 5 conditions otherwise for us to approve a waiver. Basically, if any commissioner objects to this waiver request. If there
Did you
is,
have a motion for that waiver?
I'm sorry, yep. I'm sorry, I was listing it under the other one. Thanks. Is there a motion?
I'll move that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Mark Blackmer.
All right, so motion by David Moore, seconded by Mark Blackmer. Does anyone have any objection to this waiver request or concerns or any discussion we wish to have on this waiver request?
I do, Mr.
Yes, Gail.
You know, we spend a lot of time on our lighting regulations, and our lighting regulations are consistent with the illuminating engineers' recommendations under the dark sky initiatives. Unfortunately, this engineer designed to standards from 20 years ago and not the most current standards from the Illuminating Engineers Association. And I think we need to look at a way to get it down to the 10 lumens that are of intensity, that the 10-foot candles that our regulations call for. Because again, our regulations are consistent with the recommendations of the Illuminating Engineers Association. And we're blessed here in Woodstock to have fairly dark skies. And I think the public would like to keep it that way. I think this commission would like to keep it that way. That's why we spent so much time on our lighting regulations. And I think this is not consistent with the community wishes. It's not consistent with the plan of conservation and development, and it will have an adverse effect on the environment.
Thank you, Gail. Speaking as a commissioner, I want to follow with that, having been through, I think it was at least 1 year of us delving into lighting regulations, and we really delved into it. We received a lot of public input during that process. There were a lot of people from across the town who had concerns when we were talking about lighting. And again, this is lighting regulations, not for residences, not for agriculture. It's really more for commercial business lighting. And we were very mindful, I believe, and very thoughtful at the time about wanting to make certain we could have appropriate lighting for businesses, but also try to respect the rural nature of the town and what we were consistently hearing from people about wanting to keep lighting down as much as we could, especially relative to the dark skies. And when we did look at the international dark sky regulations that actually were created along with input from the Illuminating Engineering Society, we very much looked at those types of lighting regulations that were for rural towns, not for a suburb or for a city. And we did spend time discussing about under canopy lighting and how bright it would be. So I do share your concern, Gail, as far as the intensity of the lighting under the canopy, even though I am, understanding that if the entire original motion passes, that is to approve the application with the decreased size of the canopy, the total number of those lights would be down. Still, you have lighting that is definitely above what we had set as a limit, with a lot of input that we got at the time for creating that. So I do share your concern in that regard, Gail, and I do have a concern relative to the intensity of the lighting under the canopy, even though I do understand that some people have looked at it from an angle of wanting to make certain that enough visible light so people can safely pump gas and do what they otherwise do when they're pumping gas. That's just my opinion as a commissioner relative to this waiver request. So I do have a concern about it.
I would assume that the International Illuminating Engineers, who have set a minimum for foot candles underneath a canopy like this, we're looking at safety as well. So I think if we met those criteria, which would be the 10-foot candles, that would probably be adequate for safety.
Anything further from the commissioners on this motion about approving this waiver request?
Well, I'd like to comment, Jeff. Okay, I want to follow up with both yours and Gail's comments that this has been a pretty significant part of our rewrite of the regulations a while back, and been trying to see if there is actually a required by state or federal regulations for lighting levels, or just best practices that don't mandate a certain level of lighting. And just hoping that there'd be some creative ways to provide safe, adequate lighting without necessarily going to the standard models of brilliant canopy lighting. And if there was a way to maintain the 10 lumens or less lighting under the canopy, would certainly encourage the engineering firm to look at that. And there are ways from indirect lighting or underlighting that can help minimize the amount of light coming from the canopy. So while I'll probably vote aye on the waiver, it is with some reluctance in that it's not really meeting the spirit of what Woodstock zoning regulations were designed for.
Fred, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I think one thing that should be remembered is they're not running this operation 24 hours a day. They're closing it at 9 o'clock and all the lights under the canopy are going to be off. Summer months, you wouldn't even notice they were on probably for the half hour or so they're going to be on before dark. This time of year, it's a little different, but they aren't looking for a 24-hour a day operation here where they would be on all night. They will be off 9 o'clock or 9:30, whatever we decided the other night, what they told us anyway. And I think that's to be considered in this too.
Thank you, Fred. Anything further from commissioners on this motion for the waiver request? If not, I'll go through the roll. Okay. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett.
Nay.
I'm sorry, Sid, what did you say?
Nay. No.
Nay. Okay. Gail Dickinson,
Nay.
Jeff Gordon, no. Jeff Marcotte,
No.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
Tim Young.
Aye.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 ayes and we have 4 nays. It passes. So the waiver request has been approved.
Does the waiver, Jeff, just need a majority or does it need a 2/3?
No, it needs a majority.
Just a majority? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
In the past, it's needed 2/3.
No, it says, I believe it's just a majority. For the waiver in lighting, it doesn't say that it's 2/3. There's been a provision in, I believe, subdivision that requires a higher number of ayes,
Yeah, subdivision requires 2/3 of the full membership.
but for zoning, it's majority. Per the regulations and my understanding is state statute. So that passes by a 5-4 vote. One additional item we need to approve before we can decide what to do with the overall approval is, we would have to have a motion to approve the ENS control bond of $13,800 and the ENS control plan. We could do that all in one motion unless you wanted to have 2 separate motions. If someone wishes to make a motion on that regard
I'll make that motion.
to approve both.
Yes.
I'll second the motion, Fred Rich.
So motion by Young, seconded by Rich to approve the ENS control bond and the ENS control plan. Okay, any discussion on those? I'll go through the roll then. Excuse me, Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
aye,
and Tim Young.
Aye.
I take that as so passes. That takes us back to the main motion. And we note that the waiver requests were approved and that the ENS control bond and ENS control plan are approved. So that does take us back to the main motion. At this point is there any further discussion on the main motion? Or anything that any commissioner has not yet had a chance to speak about or say something to? Okay.
Yes, Jeff,
Yes, go ahead.
Mark Blackmore.
Yes,
Now,
Mark.
is this with the stipulations of getting the updated plan?
We would need to put that in. Yep, so that's what I was going to get into, as well as the special permit decision. So yes, so what we would need to make it clear on the record, and we can take a vote on this, is that if this were to be approved, there would be a condition that there would have to be a revised site plan that would have to be submitted, and it would need to be compliant with the conditions of approval. And that would be determined by, if I'm correct, Rich, could we have Delia and Tina as staff and me as chair sign off that it's compliant with the conditions of approval? Is that
Yep.
appropriate to do with staff?
Mhm.
If it doesn't meet the conditions of approval, then it would have to be sent back and to be revised. Otherwise, that would be a condition of approval. So we would have to do that if someone wishes to make a motion to make certain we codify that into the record.
So moved.
Okay,
I'll second that.
so motion by Adaletta, seconded by Morse. Is there any discussion on that? So that would be the revised site plan sent to Delia, Tina, me as chair, to verify compliance. Let me just write this down. With conditions of approval. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Red Rich,
aye,
and Tim Young.
Aye.
That so passes. So now we're back to the main motion. Let me just see, here I am. A lot of motions tonight. Before we can actually take a vote on it, we need to make certain that we've gone through the special permit decision criteria. And we need to make certain they're clear on the record that we feel it meets all of this. This is out of zoning regulations. So we can't approve or approve with modifications or deny a special permit unless we feel that with regards to these criteria are met, or in the case of denial, not met. So the following needs to be met as far as every single one of these. And let me know if anybody objects that it's not in compliance with any of these. It is compliance with the zoning regulations of the town of Woodstock. Anybody raise any objection to that? It is consistent with the plan of conservation development and the plan of open space and conservation. It will generate minimal off-site adverse impacts on the surrounding area, including, but not limited to, adverse impacts on the environment, the character of the area, including any natural, historical, and cultural features. The property values, the reasonable use, enjoyment, and development of properties. It will neither adversely affect ground or surface waters nor endanger drinking water supplies. And I just want to, for me, I just want to note again on that we did have Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency review, and they did grant a permit. It shall have the approval of appropriate agencies such as NDDH, WPCA, DPH, and DEP for sewage disposal and water surface. It does not adversely impact existing traffic conditions, including a finding that streets serving the proposed use or activity are adequate to carry any additional traffic generated by the use or activity, and that no traffic safety problem, for example, poor sightline, will be caused or significantly aggravated by the use or the activity. It will provide unhindered emergency vehicle access. It will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. It will meet the following standards as applicable: adequate landscaping and buffering treatments, stormwater management, E&S control, lighting, signage, floodplain, dimensional. Since I didn't hear any objections, it actually then meets the criteria. And if we feel it meets the criteria, we've so stated on the record.
Do you need to mention anything about the approved waivers relative to the first item, just to ensure that we understand we did make waivers to the regulations?
Yes, we did. And so those 3 waivers are valid.
Right.
We did grant the approval for those, correct. The conditions we otherwise have on the main motion would still otherwise be applicable and in effect if this is so approved. So, and then I'll just state what we usually state, that in evaluating the special permit application, the commission has relied upon information provided by the applicant, and if such information subsequently proves to be false, deceptive, incomplete, or inaccurate, this approval shall be modified, suspended, or revoked. And in our regulation, it also says, in granting approval for any special permit, the commission or its authorized agents shall at all times have reasonable access to the site for the purpose of inspection and determination of compliance with the approval and these regulations. Since I didn't hear any objections to any of the criteria, that does then allow us to take a vote on this. Any last discussion? Otherwise, I'll go through the roll. Okay. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Tim Young.
Aye.
That so passes. So the special permit modification with the conditions of approval and with the 3 waiver approvals, and also the condition about what needs to be revised to be compliant with the condition, all the conditions of approval are so passed. Delia, Tina, you'll do whatever magic you do for post-approval stuff.
Yes.
And then you'll just let me know when we receive the revisions, and we can review them to verify they're compliant with the conditions of approval. That is all that I have then at this point for this item. So want to say congratulations to the applicant and to the applicant's representatives. Thank you for working with us. And that will be so noted, Tina, they will be posted in in the paper. We approved it.
Yes, it will be.
Okay. All right. That completes the business of old business tonight. We do have CEO reports. Anything, Tina, from your perspective, from an office perspective? I know you've been very busy in general. I know Cindy's been helpful with regard to being the land use clerk and keeping her busy, and Delia as well, helping us out. So, and I also want to once again say thank you to Crystal, who's been helpful for us getting our Zoom meetings up and running and hosting them while we're live with our meetings. So I think things have been kept busy for you in the office.
Yes, we have a really great team working hard together over the last 6 weeks. I have
We can't hear you, Tina.
All right, let me get closer. Can you hear me now?
No, you're muted.
Ah,
Going in the wrong direction.
you're muted.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
There you
Yes.
go.
Loud and clear.
Okay. All right, so in the last 6 weeks, I have 27 permits that I've processed, let's see, 14 of them. I have 7 new homes over the last 6 weeks. Lots of calls about developing lots and subdivision requests. And so it's been extremely busy with wetlands violations as well. I do have a couple of complaints that I am working on. One being the Rogers lighting situation on Woodstock Road. And I do have a list that I will email out to the commission probably later this evening or tomorrow. I just finished updating it. So I apologize for not getting it in the packets. So that's, you'll see in detail the permits.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. And you'll, as you said, you'll send out that stuff to us.
Yes.
So that way we can see it. I know you've been busy. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And by extension, that keeps Delia busy with work that we generate. So
Yes,
thank you.
it does. Yeah, thank you, Delia, for everything you do.
Yeah.
Cindy's great.
We
Can I just
do-
ask a quick question, Jeff?
Yes, no, please
Just
go
to
ahead.
follow up on the rusty relics, part of the condition for approval was to get this review by the state archaeologist to take a look at that. And I'm assuming Tina or Delia would get a report based on their review. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm assuming you don't have one yet.
No, I do not. They're not ready. They're working with the fire marshal and building official currently to try to get that part of the project set.
Okay, great.
They've already started their driveway building and stuff, correct?
Yes, they have.
Anything else with
They
regards?
opened the store this weekend, though?
I'm sorry, what?
I think they may have opened the store this weekend
No, they're not supposed to be open this weekend. No.
because they had posted pictures, I think, on Woodstock Proud of the store was open and here's all the things that were in it.
That was the Southwood stock store, I believe.
Yeah, they don't have permission to open. They wanted to have the grand opening this upcoming weekend, but that's just not working out. It's going to have to be next week, hopefully, right before Thanksgiving. The push is on. But not sure if, we're doing our best to work with them to get the sign offs that they need. But as you know, there's many levels of, approvals.
And they do have to submit their Mylars to us.
And I don't have the Mylars yet, correct?
I did put Treehouse Brewing Company as an update on the agenda. You may have noticed. Reason I did that, we had received some questions from some members of the public regarding what is the status of things with Treehouse Brewing. And so I know, Tina, I'd spoken with you that I had put this on the agenda as far as any particular update regarding, I know you had spoken with some of the folk over at Treehouse Brewing. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to update the commission with regards to where things stand, including that the Department of Consumer Protections held a hearing regarding a liquor permit for them.
Yes, I did receive that notification and I did immediately reach out to Kimberly Galinsky, who's the business manager, to ask what was pending, what they were going to be submitting. I know the last time we had the preliminary discussion with them, they mentioned they were going to submit special permit application and I had not heard anything. So the update from Kim was that they're in their second year of the CSA, which recently ended. They're selling cider, which they press in the barn. They do have the permit to do that, and it's by appointment only. They're strictly following the COVID restrictions. They still have some fall produce that can be purchased during guest reserve visits, and they do intend on pursuing the special permit next year, possibly. That's the update.
Okay. And my understanding is the state has not yet at this point granted them a liquor license. They held a hearing.
Right.
Has been no decision yet from the Department of Consumer Protection with regards to the outcome of that hearing, is my
That's right.
understanding. So having.
And I will be reaching out to them to get a report. I'll have something probably at the next meeting from the members of the liquor control board. I have a few names of people to reach out to.
And is my understanding that if they were to get a liquor permit from the state, anything otherwise additional that they would be looking to do in town would still require local permits and approvals. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Joe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, thank you, Jeff. Just was a little disconcerted seeing this note in here and a lot of activity taking place, presumably without any special permit in place. I'm happy to hear that Tina is aware of what's going on. Just worried about the coordination because obviously there's the Department of Consumer Protection and their Liquor Control Board. If they approve a liquor license, does that allow Treehouse to sell liquor on the premises, or do they need a modification to a special permit from P&Z? Does the Department of Agriculture have to get involved because there's some protected land there that has to be taken into consideration if there's a retail type operation taking place? So anyway, I'm just glad that Tina's reaching out to the different departments, and hopefully we'll get a little better coordination amongst the different agencies to ensure that the town of Woodstock is properly following or being made aware of what's happening before it happens, so we can add our comments to the process.
Yes.
That's why I, as chair, had talked with you, Tina, so we could find out what was going on to get an update, about stuff when we did hear some questions being raised by some members of the public. I wasn't aware that DCP had actually scheduled a hearing. I don't necessarily look at their agenda for their liquor control division all the time. So we were notified by some members of the public that the hearing actually happened. And that's when Tina and I talked and wanted to see what we could get for updates. And
would there have been I'm sorry, would there have been a sign posted near the road to say that Treehouse was going to a public hearing so this public would know about it?
I thought DCP requires that.
Someone had mentioned that they had a sign posted a while back.
Oh,
So,
they did. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, we'll get some further updates and further information from DCP. So, okay. Citizens' comments, any comments from citizens not on any one agenda item or anything with regards to the ZEO report, since we've already discussed that? Budget review and bills. I don't think we have any bills that needs a vote. I'm just looking here. There are no bills that need a vote. I just signed off on a small little bill that was a notice for the public hearing. But there's no bills that require our vote. We do have, as we get every month, the report from the treasurer's office with regards to where we stand with the POCD fund and where we stand with our own budget. As part of our overall process, being very mindful and careful with the townspeople tax money. We do have some correspondence. We actually have the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies quarterly newsletter, which is actually always interesting to read. So I enjoy getting them. And this is why we actually do continue to sign up to get these, because there's some helpful info in here. So including an item that a lot line adjustment is not a subdivision. That was an interesting reading. And also, we have the Connecticut Bar Association's Land Use Training Seminar date. I remember attending this some years ago in person at Wesleyan University. There was a group of us that went at the time. Very helpful training session, and we actually get booklets that come out. And even if you don't attend, you can still pay to get or request to get a booklet of what happened or what's presented. It's very good information. And a lot of good people who are on behalf of the Connecticut Bar Association presenting. This coming year on Saturday, March 6th, it's going to be virtual. So if you would like to sign up and register, I don't know what the fee is, but we do have money in our budget for paying for registration. If you are interested, then let us know, let Tina know. I just don't know what the registration fee is. But I would encourage anyone who has not attended one of these to attend. But also, if you're unable to attend and would like to get the booklet, I know I couldn't attend the last one, but I sent an email in and requested a booklet and was able to get a booklet from it. And I want to thank again Attorney Roberts for directing me to the right person so I could request the booklet. But it's very good info, and it's always a good review and primer on a lot of the basics of what we do and why we do what we do and what the law requires us to do and all that other type of stuff. And I actually still go back at times and refer to things in that book. It's always helpful to know it. So if you would like to register, just let Tina know. But this coming time, it's virtual. So that'll actually be easier to attend for the
Chairman?
day. Yes?
Going back to the quarterly newsletter,
Yes.
first article is about proposed changes to zoning laws at the state level.
Correct.
That would basically take a lot of the planning function away from us and put it at the state and make it sort of the same uniformly for the whole state. Could we send a letter to Pat Boyd and Dan Champagne that we're, as a group, oppose this transfer of land use control to the state
We
away from?
certainly could. I know, having spoken with Dan Champagne, he's opposed to it. For those who don't know, there's an effort in the state spearheaded by Senator Anwar and also by Sarah Bronin, who I don't know if she's still currently the chair of Hartford's P&Z. I think she's former. Their group is called Desegregate Connecticut. I think there's one other group, I can't remember their name, that's working with them. One of their proposals is to take away a wide swath of authority that towns and cities have with regards to zoning, especially when it comes to certain subdivision regulations. And the state would then codify what can and cannot be done. And additional, there's been proposals to then create regional planning and zoning groups, perhaps using the COGS, the Council of Governments for that, which would further take away local input and local decision-making. I've been on the record publicly stating I'm opposed to it. There's a group that's formed previously called Hands Off Our Schools, very active in the state, that pushed back against regionalization of boards of education. And a same number of that group has created hands-off zoning and basically wanting to make certain that towns and cities can still retain, through the townspeople's elected officials, local control of zoning. I do know Dan Champagne is opposed to it, having spoken with him more than once. We're happy to send a letter. I have not spoken with Pat Boyd. I was actually going to send him a letter as a individual, asking his opinion. If the commission wishes, we can send a letter on behalf of the commission to both of them about it. There are certainly some things that have been looked at to see what to do about more affordability of housing, and is there any concern about segregation type practices with regards to zoning. Those types of practices are certainly illegal in the state. And I know, having seen some presentations by the group, some of the data that's been presented is not actually, seems to be current data for what towns and cities are required to follow. And so I don't see that us here in Woodstock are necessarily doing anything bad. We've spent a lot of good time thinking about right ways of being inclusive with zoning, but also keeping in mind what people in town want and don't want. I'll defer to the commission what the commission wishes to do as far as drafting a letter. We certainly can. We've done this type of thing before, where we've sent our opinions and questions to our state elected officials. Unless there's an objection, we can certainly send a letter asking what their feeling is. This is something that is felt that is likely to be brought up in the upcoming legislative session. I know there's a big push to bring it up.
I would move that we send a letter saying that we're opposed to any limitations on local control of land use.
Like to say,
I'll agree.
Who seconded it?
I did. Tim Young.
Tim Young, okay. So it would be a letter, Gail, saying we're opposed. What was the wording that you used?
To limitations on local control of land use as
Okay.
proposed. I don't think they have a bill number yet, do they?
They don't. They actually have a bill that is draft worded. I've seen a copy of it. That is proposed by Senator Anwar. But it hasn't been submitted, so there's no bill number. So any discussion on it? I certainly believe that the people of town would continue to want to make certain they have a local say in zoning matters that come up within their own town, like others in other towns want to do. That's why each town has a planning and zoning commission elected by the good people of their towns, including Woodstock. That's just my personal opinion on it. I'll go through the roll unless there's any discussion. I just don't know if I missed anybody's hand. Joe Adaletta,
Aye.
Mark Blackmer,
Aye.
Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and last but not least, Timothy Young.
Aye.
That so passes. So I will draft a letter and send it to both of those elected officials. As far as those are the correspondence we have. That takes us, well, actually, we're right at the 10 o'clock mark. Wow, couldn't have
How
timed it.
about that?
So that takes us to agenda item 16, which is Fred Rich's
Yes,
honor.
yeah. Jeffrey, one comment before I make the motion.
Yep.
I don't know if all the new members that we have on the board have gotten all their paperwork from the town. It might be a good idea if you took a minute sometime, not necessarily tonight, and checked with them to make sure they got their packages of town regulations and planning and zoning book and all
Okay.
that good stuff.
Is there any
Okay?
that did not receive anything, any of that stuff? If you haven't received it, then ask Tina.
I have a
All right.
question.
I haven't received anything, any of the major booklets or anything, Tina.
Because I thought that stuff was going to go out soon after everybody joined.
I can follow up on that, but do you want it by paper or by email?
On the
Hey.
website.
Who wants to print all those books, Delia?
Some people don't want things by paper, Fred. I'll send paper stuff to people that want it by paper, but
So
I just
basically
need
what
to
we'll
know who
do is
wants
any
it.
commissioner who wishes to get a copy, be it printed or email, of the regulations, you just got copies of our bylaws, including
On
the,
the website.
yep, they're on the website. If you wish printed copies as well, then
Yep.
let or Delia know. And then that can be provided to you.
And you may want to include the plan of conservation and development.
Yep.
'Cause
I know
that's-
we talked last year about having all those documents go out, but we can get them out. But the PLCD, with our nice, beautiful front and back covers that we have on it can go out as well. So by all means, let Tina and Delia know, or Delia know, and we can get that stuff out to you. If you wish to access it electronic and download it, you can do that by the website. Okay, well, that then takes us to
Move to adjourn.
who wishes to
Second,
join?
it.
Second,
All right. So motion by Fred Rich, seconded by Tim Young. We can't have a discussion on motion to adjourn. It's a non-discussable item. So I'm going to take us to the roll. Joe
Aye.
Adel. Mark
Aye.
Ed Blodgett,
Aye.
Gail Dickinson,
aye.
Jeff Gordon. I guess I will say aye as well. Jeff Marcotte,
Wait, I'm still thinking about it. Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Fred Rich,
Aye.
and Tim. How do you vote?
Aye.
We are so adjourned at 10 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Buddy.
We, right now, we actually, well, we don't have any business right now to take us to the first Thursday of December. We had talked about potentially trying to pivot and get back to certain planning items, but we're not probably going to be able to get much out in time because that's only 2 weeks away, and we also have a holiday week. We can always not have that meeting.
Good idea.
Is there anyone who really feels we should have a meeting? Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get any planning documents or anything out in time. So I know the meeting's adjourned, but unless anyone is objecting to it, I can, as chair, state that there's no business in the December 3rd. I think it's December 3rd or December
3rd, December 3rd. Yeah,
Yep. December 3rd meeting. I will note we've canceled.
very good.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Happy
Yep.
Thanksgiving.
Good night, everybody.
Take
Good
care.
night.
All right, I have to see how.